Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Yada Yahweh Radio and our Shabbat program. We have Lisa and Kirk with us today. Best I can understand, Larry is still under the weather, and today JB is not feeling very well, and Lisa's got a really lousy line, so we'll be hearing from her less frequently than normal. What I'd like to share is that if you haven't already listened to it, in the archive it would be posted, the observations program for this afternoon. And in it, Captain Kirk, the captain of the starship Torah, did the first part of a two-part series on the plagues of Egypt and the aftermath with the Amalekites / Hissox. And we did the plagues of the Torah. And what was really interesting about them is that there is an archive, and this is for real, folks. You can go and look it up. We provided all of the information, spelled it, gave its formal name, its familial name, the location of the archive, the people who, the individual who did the most comprehensive translation of it. And what you'll find is an eyewitness to the plagues who provided an extraordinarily similar account to what we read in the Torah, occurred in Mitzrayim, circa 1450 BCE. So it's very much worth listening to if you want to just listen to the extraordinary nature of that history, as well as we began the program by talking about some of the interesting things about the conflict between science and historians and the accounts that are in the Torah, when in fact the accounts in the Torah have consistently proved to be perfect, inerrant. And yet their go-to move is to start with, it isn't true, therefore there's nothing to these coincidences. But I think you'll find that the coincidences will blow your mind. Yeah, it's just to say it doesn't mean it's true. Lisa's also done some research on the identity of the Hissox, so we will have in due time a really nice follow-up program on who the Hissox, the Amalekites, represent, where they came from, and what role they played, and why Egypt fell off the face of the earth for a period of time, and who the players were in Egypt. We talked at length today about why it was not Ramses, why the city was Ramses, and the significance of that. And they found the city of Ramses. It's Towrah al-Elb, I think, is the name of it, but I've got it written in the Salah Freedom chapter of Yada Yahweh, should you be interested in it. And so they found it, but it does not say the Pharaoh's name was Ramses. In fact, I don't think Yahweh would have any interest in sharing with us the Pharaoh's name. You can look it up in the timeline, and if David Rawl is right, and I think he probably is, it was Dudamos that was the Pharaoh of the Exodus, and did not go well for him. Challenging Yahweh is a really bad idea. All right, so we're going to return. Unless somebody would like to introduce a new thought, we're going to return to where we were on Yashayah 1 and 2. The purpose of the review is to take us back to the presentation of Zion in the Torah, so we have a far better understanding of what Zion represents. I can't say that Zion is never called a mount. There is one reference to Zion as a ridgeline or mountain, but it is uncommon to see it that way, and it is always associated with Moriah. It is always essential to the Torah's guidance, and so in this dialogue represents a legacy that Yahweh deliberately left behind when his children were no longer serving as either children or witnesses. that he left Zion, the signposted along the way, in the most important place on earth, the ridgeline of Mount Moriah in the center of Jerusalem, Yisrael, actually Yehuda, Yisrael, for the express purpose of guiding people who were open to Yahweh's leading home. All right, so where we were is we had just shared this statement. I'll read the previous one that and then what we had just talked about. So if you begin with 1:16 of Yeshaya. So when you spread out the palms of your hands, this is Yahweh talking to those who are duplicitous and religious. So when you spread out the palms of your hands, I will hide my eyes and also my presence from you, because you choose to make many worthless prayers, abhorrent pleas, and repulsive petitions. Boy, if you listen to Christian or Jewish prayers today, you would absolutely come to that conclusion. I will not be listening. That's the thing that we tell people all the time. This part of this program, part of these series of books, is that God absolutely, unequivocally does not listen to human prayers. There is the possibility that God listens to the conversations of his children. I think that is probably likely, that he listens to the conversations of his children. Mm-hmm. But they represent so few people overall that he's listening to at most 1 in a million people. Wow. And that all those little people out there that think that they're doing this wonderful thing by training their children to pray, and that are praying and doing group prayers and all that sort of thing, all those people think they're doing a good thing by that. Now, God is not listening. He is absolutely unwilling to listen, not interested in listening, has no desire to hear what they have to say. And I want to make this clear, too, is that even for his children, there really isn't a meaningful benefit to prayer. Now, that might sound strange. Kirk, would you like to jump in on that? Why would you say that there really isn't any significant benefit to prayer, even if you're one of Yah's children?
Well, he's already told you what he would do. He's always promised to cover your needs. So unless you're just talking with him to say hi,
right.
What are you going to ask him for that he already know that you need?
Right. And that's my point.
If you're hurting, he knows it. If you're hungry, he knows it. If you're lonesome, he knows it. And he talks over and over. If all the solutions are in there, go read them. The answers are there.
The big issues are, for most of us who are part of Yah's covenant family, is that we've come across something in the Torah or prophets that we just don't understand. We'd like some insights. We're reading something and we gain a lot from it, but not sure we gain everything we'd like. We're looking to translate or understand a word a little more clearly. That's the majority of what I search for, and what I would ask him for if I was going to ask. But my point there is, why would I ask him for what he's already not only committed to provide, but desirous of me knowing? I mean, that's like telling the guy that's selling ice cream cones, asking him, "Would you like to sell me an ice cream cone?"
I'm here selling ice cream cones.
Yeah, it's like asking your mother, "Would you like to feed me?" It's asking a parent, "Would you like to love me?" No, there is no reason that we have to say such things. So I am, and then the other kind of things are, there's big thresholds in life, where you go right or left, you choose one avenue or another, and even then, if it's something that is vital to Yahweh's interests and his family, he's going to take a role in enabling it, because it's what he wants. And if it's not in Yahweh's interest, it's really none of his business. He ought not. Yeah, he really ought not intervene in human affairs in a manipulative way on things that don't pertain to him. I recall one time when I had that systemic poison ivy. I mean, I lost 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and it was essentially impossible for me to say, God, I'd really like you to take this away. It's not his affair. It really isn't his business, and it's certainly below God's pay grade to ask him to meet trivial needs of ours. So,
but you pointed out one time, I thought was very important, that at what point, if that was acceptable and he intervened, at what point does he not intervene without crossing over the line of free will? I mean, he cannot micromanage you. He is not omnipotent. You can't have both. You can't be omnipotent, omnipresent, and allow you to have free will and then intervene on everything.
Correct. So, and the other issue is that let's assume that by prayer people think of conversation, that it's a conversation with God. Let's say that's the case, and it's not just yibber yabber, because most prayers are yibber yabber. Nobody's doing any listening; they're only doing talking. If you get beyond the religious, the rabbinic, Jewish yibber yabber, recite prayer, the Muslim recite prayer, the Christian recite prayer, or the Christian I want to be heard prayer in front of public prayer. If you put all the yibber yabber aside, which has no value whatsoever, and you say, all right, that prayer is going to be a time of meditation and reflection, where I'm going to talk and listen. Okay, then if that's the case, what do you think you're going to benefit more from?
I think listening is.
That's why I'm.
This is not a trick question, no.
No, it's not. It's not a. It's not a.
Who's got the most to say that's important to know?
Right, and it's certain. Heck, I want to say in the relationship with Yahowah, it is not me.
No.
As
much as we like. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not me, and that's okay because I like listening to him, and I listen to him same way we all do. Listening to what he has to say. So this says, so your abhorrent plea is, I will not be listening. Your hands are full of the shedding of the blood of life, and your fingers are full of iniquity. Choose to actually wash yourselves. In your own free will, remove the impurities, bathing yourself using an abundance of water, demonstrating a desire to be free of foreign sediment and impure substances, and to be upright and acquitted. Now, we didn't talk about this the other day, but there's something very profound about that. Most people, when they think of Yahowah, God, they don't know Yahowah's name, but God forgiving, they do not think, they either think one or two things, either that the good outweighs bad, and that if you did some good in life and not a lot of bad in life, that God's going to grade on the curve, and you're going to get admission into heaven because you tried to live a good life. And those people would be completely wrong. Yes, because we can't do anything that impresses God other than study His Torah and learn from it. That impresses Him, but that's not a performance thing. He doesn't want our money. He's not impressed when we make a donation. He's not impressed when we walk a little old lady across the street. Okay, so that being the case, others will say that God can forgive all sins. Well, not according to God.
Not according to Him.
What God is saying here, and when He says, "Wash yourself of these impurities, of these foreign sediment," what He's saying is that I am not in the business of forgiving your religious faith. That's not what I'm in the business of forgiving. I'm not in the business of forgiving your political rubbish. If you're militaristic, if you're political, if you're religious, you need to cleanse yourself of those things, of that foreign sediment, before we're in a position to talk, and then I'm in a position to forgive by overlooking, by washing you clean of the little stuff. The big stuff, I can't forgive because I don't understand and I won't tolerate it, what God said early in this discussion. So that's really an extraordinarily important insight, the way this is worded. When I first read it, I was kind of bothered because, it's God's job to wash us. And when I said, wash yourselves, I was saying, I'm not so sure. That's inconsistent with the overall teaching and the purpose of the Torah. And I said, no, it's not. It's absolutely consistent. And the consistency is God cannot and will not cleanse a religious or political person. If your inequity is foreign sediment, the religions born and bred in Babylon, forget it. You can't be saved.
You can't even get to him until you've walked away a little bit. I mean, you've got Abraham didn't walk all the way home. He walked away.
Yes.
I know what my situation was. I went until the preacher died, and I finally started just looking for him all by ourselves.
I think you and I were similar to Abraham. When we first met Yahowah, we didn't know him. When we first met Yahweh, we were not home. We were not saved. We were not part of the covenant. When we first met him, just like Abraham, who was halfway between Ur of Sumah in Babylon and Israel, and didn't even know he was headed to Israel. But if you look at where he was, that's where I was. That's where you were. Absolutely. I had walked away from Christianity. I knew it was false. And I had walked away from my affinity for Republican politics. I knew that it was unreliable. Now, I didn't know Yahowah. I didn't know what the terms and conditions of his covenant were, but that's kind of when we were introduced. And the rest of it was all based on, all right, he's going to reveal that path, and I'm going to be interested in it, and more importantly, I'm going to go where the words lead. That's what we all did.
Absolutely.
So that's the story with this, and I think it's really important to know that God says you have to choose to actually wash yourself and of your own free will remove the impurities, bathing yourself using an abundance of water, demonstrating a desire to be free of foreign sediment and impure substances. And rather than on your knees in politics and religion, be upright so you can be acquitted. So that's the first step. You've got to walk away from Babel, from religion and politics, before you're in a position for God to apply his mikre, his means of vindicating us. Then he says, of your own volition, reject and turn away from your evil and counterproductive rituals. These things you have done before my eyes, thereby preventing coming invalidated or seen as unethical, improper, and errant. So God's saying, first you got to clean yourself of all this religious muck, because I'm not letting any of that garbage into to my home. And then, listen, I understand that none of you have been perfect. You've all been raised in this culture of humanity. You've all been raised in nations and in religious communities. All I'm asking is, once you clean yourself, don't go back there and practice that rubbish again. Stop it. Don't continue to irritate me. That's like writing all these, the 10 statements, the etched in stone, writing them all in the imperfect, which means just don't make a habit. Don't have an ongoing proclivity. To bear false witness and to kill and to invalidate my name and testimony. That's what he's saying. You just don't go back there. Once you're out, stay out. So then this is where we were at the end of last week. Desire learning. Be receptive to being taught, and be open to instruction, to being right, to being better, and to prosper. Seek, choosing to inquire about the means to justly resolve disputes and to exercise good judgment. Live an upright life, walking the right way, serving as a guide for those who are oppressed by human institutions. Be judgmental, pleading on behalf of the fatherless child, especially those who are searching. Quarrel, verbally contending with, even ridiculing the congregation of the bound. the dumb and forsaken. 1:17.
That's a mouthful.
Wow. So it's like every good father, every good parent. You've got to tell your child what not to do, and then you also want to tell them what to do. So God said, once you have stopped doing these things that are an irritant, that are counterproductive, being religious, being political, being patriotic, once you stop doing those things, then what I want you to do, if we're going to develop a relationship, and if you're going to live a productive life, and if you're going to have your life matter at the end of the day, then this is what you need to do. Desire learning. What does Torah mean?
It's learning is a teaching instrument.
Right.
It's where you go
so desire learning means desire reading the Torah.
To want to read the Torah, yes, to study it.
Yeah. Desire learning.
Carefully observe it, yes. Shemar Torah.
Be receptive to being taught, which means rather than the religious and patriotic who absolutely and unequivocally are appalled by, allergic to, and repulsed by Yahweh's testimony, hate God's testimony. You need to get to a place where you're receptive to being taught. You know, it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to pray to God, or do you want to listen to God? When you make that change, right, when you make that change from being religious and praying to God for your own benefit, thinking it is for your own benefit, to listening to God because that's what God says is valuable, that's the transition and the attitude that makes all of the difference. He says, be open to instruction. You know, Yahweh said the Torah is easy to understand for the open-minded. Be open to instruction. Be open to the Torah, to being right. Because what we learned from Shaul, King Shaul, he was presented as the ultimate in good. In all of the land, there was nobody who could be considered his equal when it came to being good. And he was tall, dark, and handsome. He was a leader among men. He was articulate. You know, he had it all together, and he did the right things for the right reasons, and so it appeared. When it came to Tob good, there was nobody better than King Shaul. And yet what happened to King Shaul?
He wound up being killed.
Yeah, he didn't
along
just
with
get killed.
His 3 sons.
He upset Yahweh. Yahweh absolutely rejected him. Yahweh said, if you choose him, you are absolutely rejecting me. So understand the consequence. And then his head was cut off, and his sons were desecrated. So you don't want to be, obviously, being the goodest of the good ain't good enough, is it?
Well, now when he's told us that no one is good, I mean, there's no.
Right.
He just ahead of the curve, maybe. He may have been a really nice guy.
Right. Like Dode.
But he wasn't right.
Dode who replaced him.
Yeah.
You'd have to be out of your mind to view Dode as good from a moral sense. Dode was certainly not good.
No.
But Dode was right. So with Dode and Shaul, King Shaul and King Dode, David, we have this ultimate comparison to what matters with God. King Shaul was abandoned, rejected, demeaned, and ended up with his head cut off and desecrated. And Dode was called the most beloved son of all of Yahweh's creation. So beloved that when the millennial Shabbat happens, it's going to be Dode's kingdom. His house is the only house that is going to be built next to Yahweh's house on Mount Moriah. And Dode was not good, but he was absolutely right.
Well, if you read 1:17 again and think about Dode, what is it in here that he didn't do if that's the instruction?
He desired learning. He was receptive to being taught. He was open to instruction. He was right. He was proper. He sought choosing to inquire about the means to justly resolve disputes. The Mishpat? That was one of the 4 main themes of his Ode to the Torah, the 119th Psalm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There was very few things that were more important to him than the word that underlies that translation, Mishpat.
Right.
The means to exercise good judgment, and the means to resolve disputes. That's what he sought. That's what he's saying about. Live an upright life. Now, upright life does not mean good. It means upright. That's what upright means. On your feet, engaged. We're going to read something in the next paragraph, the first line. That's one of the most powerful and yet simple statements in the whole of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Live an upright life. On your feet. Don't grovel. Don't bow before anyone. Don't bow before even God. Don't bow before false gods. Don't bow down. Live an upright life. Walking
Say that again.
the
Don't
right
bow
way.
before even God.
Right. Don't bow even before God.
Wow.
No. The last thing our Heavenly Father wants of His covenant children is for us to bow before Him. What that does is it invalidates what He has done. It's like spitting in His face. Yahowah chose to get down on His knees as Yosha, as the diminished material manifestation of Yahowah, chose to get down on His knees to lift us up. He is capable. He was willing to get down on His knees and is capable of lifting us up. When we get down on our knees, we're invalidating what He has done. We're just saying, no thanks. No thanks. I'm going to get down on my knees. I'm going to lift you up. How about that for role reversal? Unbelievably stupid. That's why I just despise religion, why God despises religion. We cannot lift God up, and it's counterproductive because it's spitting in His face. You know, if you were caught in the La Brea tar pits, and some strong gentleman walked by and reached out his hand, got down on his knees so he could reach out to you, and reached out his hand and said, here, grab hold, and I'm going to pull you out so you can stand up and get out of this and live. And you say, no thanks. No. In fact, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get down on my knees at this point and lift you up.
Or drown.
You would be a nincompoop, is what we would call that. That would be stupid. So then he says, walk the right way, serving to be a guide for those who are oppressed by human institutions. We are not required to be a guide. To be part of Yahweh's covenant family, and therefore to be saved. To be adopted, perfected, become immortal, to be empowered, and to be enriched. We are not required to be a guide. It is what God wants. What God wants us to do happens to be what is in our best interest. We are best served to serve as guides. When we serve as guides, we do something that is tremendously rewarding and tremendously beneficial, leaving a lasting imprint in this world. So it's something we are not
sure did that.
told. Right, we do not have to do that. But yes, Dode is the single best example of that, other than, I guess, Yosha. But you know, Yosha was the diminished manifestation of Yahweh, so that we can't equate him to other
don't compare those,
humans. Yeah. So as humans go, Dode was the single best example of being a guide. That's what his Psalms are all about. They serve as guides. And what he's saying is that while the thing that matters is being a guide to those who are oppressed, to those who are still in religion and politics, who are being misled. That's who we're supposed to be a guide for. Because I can't guide you, Kirk. You can't guide me. We can share information that helps us each other grow and understand, but I can't guide you because you're already home. Where would I guide you?
Where are you going to tell me to go? I'm already there.
Yeah, where am I? You're already there. So he's saying, guide those oppressed by human institutions.
Yeah,
now this the next part is so hugely different than English translations, and we've spent better part of an hour discussing it long time ago, so it's in the archives should you wish to understand the basis for this rendering. But be judgmental, pleading on behalf of the fatherless child, especially those who are searching. So, who is the fatherless child in this
those
context?
without Yahowah.
That is correct. He's not talking about orphans here.
We ain't talking about orphans. He's talking about if you're in church, you're a fatherless child. You have no father in heaven.
Right. Prior to Yahshua, Yahweh said to the children of Israel, "You are not my children anymore."
Yeah.
And so we have to recognize that from Yahweh's point of view, the fatherless child is Yisrael. The fatherless child are all those people who do not know Yahweh, who are not part of the covenant. But he says, don't speak to all of them. I want you to emphasize those who are searching. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And then this next part is, if you read an English translation, it'll say, plead with the widow. But the Hebrew word rib means to quarrel. It means to verbally contend with. It means to ridicule.
Yeah, but Yosha did all through his life.
Right, exactly.
And
the word that was translated widow, its primary meaning is an assembly or congregation of those who are bound. Bound, religion means to religion in Latin, which is to
binding,
ligament, to rebind. So ridicule the religious, ridicule the dumb, ridicule the forsaken. Yeah, that's Yosha's example. And this next line is one of my favorites. It epitomizes my perspective on our relationship with Yahweh. Please, let's go for a walk. Because I want to continuously engage in rational dialogue, says Yahweh. I don't know if there's a better statement.
That's about as kind as it gets. I don't think there's anything represented. Anybody who claims to be a God that starts out, please let us go for a walk because I want to continuously engage in rational dialogue.
First, they call religions
don't come out of the Vatican.
They call religions beliefs and faith for a reason. There is no rational dialogue. They're the antithesis of being rational. If you could be rational, you wouldn't need beliefs or faith.
Yeah.
So Yahweh is differentiating himself from religion. He says, no, I want to have a rational, logical dialogue.
Yeah.
But he wants to take a walk because he wants to enjoy a good conversation. He wants to enjoy rational dialogue. And so what's the walk all about? Let's go for a walk.
Walk is the pathway.
Yeah. Walk is...
There's many more things than that, but of course they...
you're going someplace. Yeah, you're going someplace. First of all, when you're walking, you're not down on your knees.
No, you're hardly.
You are side by side when you're walking. Yeah. You're eye to eye, chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder when you're walking. When you're walking, you're going someplace. You're engaged. You're going on a journey of discovery.
You think so because his halak, that's the person being led by the hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is really sweet stuff. I mean, nice stuff. This is just, wow.
Yeah, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Because I want to engage.
Father, son, father, daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course it's please. Yeah, please.
Let's
go for a walk because I want to continuously engage in rational dialogue, says Yahweh. Continuously engage, written in the imperfect, written in the volitional mode. This has God expressing his will. You want to know what God's will for your life is? Read this. Please, let's go for a walk because I want to continuously engage in rational dialogue. That's his will for your life, for my life, for all of his children. He wants to be engaged with us, for us to not grovel, not bow down. He doesn't say, please, worship me. No. He doesn't say, worship me or else. You're going to burn in hell. He doesn't say, believe.
I can't find praise the Lord in there anywhere.
No, please. go for a walk.
Wow.
Because I want to continuously engage in rational dialogue, says Yahweh. That's the beginning of 1:18. It could be as my top handful of favorite passages. By the way, Kirk, how many fingers do you have?
5.
You only have 5. Huh? I have 10.
Well, 10 on each hand. Yes, 5 on each hand.
Okay, you have 10. How many toes do you have?
10 again.
Okay. And your wife, Terry?
Last time I counted, she had 10 on 10.
10 and 10. So, how many married couple? How many fingers and toes do you and your wife have combined as a married couple?
40. 10, 20, 30, 40.
40. What is the single most important number to understand Yah's timeline?
40.
40 is marks a time of completion. For a family to be complete, you have to have 40 fingers and toes, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting in that regard. And then if you have a child and you're each reaching down to that child, how many fingers are you holding to lift that child?
Each?
10. You'd each be holding 5, so you'd have 10 more fingers. Now you'd be at 50. And, of course, 40 times 50 is the 2,000 years between, the Yobel. That would be the time between, 3968 BCE, 1968 BCE, so Exodus from the Garden of Eden, the trip to Mount Moriah to celebrate Passover with Abraham and Ishak to pass the test of the covenant and to ratify the covenant, 33 CE to Yosha fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, Bakurim, and Shabuah in Jerusalem.
2,000
another 40 times 50 more. And 2033, year 6,000 Yah, when Yah returns. Well, I'm looking forward to doing this, but in Yashayah, I think it's the Drib Yashayah. I came across some things that led me to some discussions or some other translations, and one of the things that is really interesting is that God routinely affirms this concept that I thought was so essential to understanding Yahweh's timeline and purpose, and it's something that I've never heard anybody else talk about, but it's one of the real pillars of my understanding of God in the Torah, and that is the story in the Garden of Eden is told because that's the idea of 6 + 1 = perfection. That's what God wants. He wants to camp out with us in an environment free of human corruptions, of religious, political, patriotic corruptions. Just he and us, camping out together in a perfect garden. When Yahweh returns on Yom Kippurim in 6,000 Yah, 2033, the first thing he's going to do is eliminate all traces of religion.
Right.
And the next thing he's going to do is refurbish the earth.
Store it, yeah.
Like it was the Garden of Eden. Everything that he has removed that was a religious or political eyesore is going to be replaced with vibrant, flourishing vegetation. Turn the earth back into the conditions of the Garden of Eden, because the millennial celebration of the Shabbat, commencing on Sukkah to camp out with God, is a return to Eden. And he says it absolutely unequivocally that the conditions are going to be just like he described in Eden. The entire earth is going to be a celebration of life. Fascinating. That's one of the times we'll get to go for a walk. So then he says here, even if your sins are as crimson, like snow, they shall be made white. Once you walked away from religion and you've done that, but you're no longer engaged in it, you're no longer engaged in politics, you've chosen to listen to God and to learn from him, then it doesn't matter. You could be like Dode. You could have done 1,000 things that are inappropriate. Doesn't matter. From God's perspective, we look as white as snow. Even if they are continually as ruddy red, as dirty as crimson, they shall be like wool. If you are genuinely willing to listen by way of the good and beneficial qualities of the land, you shall be continually nourished. But if you consistently refuse to agree and continually withhold your consent and are rebellious, by the sword you will be devoured, because the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it. I think it was between Lisa and Jeff this week. Jeff sent me some research from that atheist thinker site that after they had done a wonderful job of demonstrating that Hebrew was the first alphabet in the world, they did a marvelous job of revealing some recent archaeology that showed that in 70 CE, Titus did enter the city of Jerusalem, and that they all the catapult stones, there's hundreds of them, and the metal points of the spears all over the place. And so the effect of the Roman siege of Jerusalem, sorry, mythical Palestinians, but there were Jews there, is vividly demonstrated. And as you look at the hell that the Romans rained down, not only in 70 CE, but again in 133, on Jerusalem, on Yahudah, the province of Yahudah, as it was in 70 CE, even by the Romans in 133 to 135 CE, the province of Yahudah. It struck me that if I were God, as despicable as the Romans were, as much as he hates and I hate the Romans, Imperial Rome in particular, there was no reason for Yahweh to intervene and stop them, because his people were disgusting. They were revolting. They were putrid. They were religious. They were self-reliant. They were antagonistic to him in every possible way. And so as the Romans were there, the reason that the Jews died with the sword, and they died in stunning numbers, is because they chose not Yahweh. They chose to rebel against him. That's what this is saying.
They could have done just like Hezekiah.
Yep, they could have.
All they had to do is
turn to Yahweh, celebrate Pesach, Matzah, Bokurim, and Shabuah, and Yahweh would have taken care of the Assyrians or the Romans. That'd have been it. But no, they chose to be self-reliant, and that was the consequence. And they were repulsive. Ego, the ego of man. So he said, "You can live with God or die by man." That's really the answer. Good, Kirk.
In my little research recently, I was looking at all these different stones, and there's a stone called a Moabite stone. It comes from 1860 BCE, and it's written in Paleo-Hebrew. And the king is Mesha. I have a point to this. Mesha was a Moabite. And
by the way, 1860, we're talking about now.
I'm sorry, 860 BCE.
Oh, 860, okay. Moabite,
860 BCE.
Okay.
And I just thought how odd. I'm reading this translation on it and everything, and it says he's talking about his God against the king of King Omri of Israel.
Yes.
And in there, he's got on line 16, they reference Yahweh by name in the house of Dod, and it's like you can't find that in the Christian Bible. His name.
No.
And the enemies of Israel knew their God was Yahweh.
That's why God called it unforgivable sin. The third statement he etched in stone is saying removing his name, negating the value of his name, demeaning his name, which all Roman Catholics do, by the way, from the Pope on down.
So if that's
doing
what they were
and
doing,
all Bible publishers do, is unforgivable sin.
If you're doing things like that, then when the sword comes, who's going to protect you?
Yeah, if you don't know Yahweh's name, you cannot be forgiven. Either that or God lied when he wrote the third of the 10 statements that he etched in stone, because that's what it says. The negation, the belittlement of his name, Yahweh, is unforgivable. So if you replaced Yahweh's name with Jesus or Lord or Christ or Allah, you cannot be saved.
It doesn't matter how good you are.
Doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter where you are in your religion or the hierarchy and the clergy or how much you know or how much you have given. If you do not use Yahweh's name, if you have replaced Yahweh's name with Jesus Christ, Lord, Allah, any other option, and you do not know it and use it, you cannot be saved. Now, the Moabites don't. They knew Yahweh's name. That doesn't mean they were saved.
No, but they knew who. They at least when they talk about him, they talk about him correctly. I mean, they didn't say he was whomever, just some generic L.
Yeah, Yahweh's name is like circumcision on steroids. You know, you can be circumcised and not saved. You cannot be saved if you're not circumcised as a man. You cannot be. It's a barrier to salvation. You cannot be saved as a man if you're not circumcised. Impossible. God himself cannot do that. You cannot enter heaven as a man if you're not circumcised. Even though heaven is a spiritual realm, if you weren't circumcised in the flesh to separate yourself from the human culture, from humankind, you are not allowed into heaven. But being circumcised doesn't get you into heaven.
No. A lot of
it just precludes you from it if you're not. Yahweh's name, knowing it, isn't going to save you. But not knowing Yahweh's name, not using it, will preclude you from being saved. Yeah. You have to do. Circumcision is a step in the right direction. Yahweh's name is a leap in the right direction. But there's more to it than that. So this goes on to say, how and by what means has this city, which was once filled with enduring truth, become like a whore? You know, Yahweh doesn't have a lot to say about sexual promiscuity. In fact, I'm not sure he has anything to say about sexual promiscuity. He has, things to say about sexual deviance.
Yes.
Doesn't want you doing the lammy down in the neighboring barn. So you can't do lambs. You can't do your daughter. You can't do your mother if you're a guy. You know, he has a really short list of these are the things sexually that are really perverted. They're an abomination. You ought not do them. But there is one sexual activity that serves as a metaphor for what he hates most, for the thing that he thinks is the most universally destructive. And that metaphor, while it has nothing to do with sex, it has all to do with religion and with the adversary, is prostitution, whores, harlots. It's the whore of Babylon. When Babel, of course, means to commix, and by commixing and intermingling, to confuse. So it's religions that take little bits and pieces of other religions and blend them together to create this varnish of credibility. And the whore is someone who feigns love, who looks beautiful and yet is corrupt, who will sell you an evening of pleasure so that you feel good about it.
Just a fraud. That's all it is.
Right. Yes. So he really, really dislikes prostitution, and his primary metaphor for Satan's influence through religion is as a prostitute or as a whore. The fair, accurate, upright, and vindicating path to execute good judgment regarding the righteous mean to resolve disputes had once dwelled in her, even through the darkest hours. I mean, the darkest hours would be the time of the Roman conquest. And yet, even then, Yosha was fulfilling them, wasn't he? Yes. Pesach, Matzah, B'Kurim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But now, they have become murderers, causing many to die needlessly. Yeah, when we use militaries to kill, and when we are killed in the military, like there was a part of Trump's speech to Congress earlier this week that was just repulsive, where they had the widow of the 30-some-odd-year-old Special Forces individual that was killed in the absolute failed, disastrous invasion of Yemen, where they killed a young girl and I think like 10 to 12 civilians in a absolute botched raid, murderous raid. Didn't get the bad guys. As a matter of fact, they knew even before they made the it would have been good judgment to return, they knew their mission had been compromised and that the guy that they were seeking had fled and that they were flying into an ambush, and they were so stupid, so arrogant, they continued anyway. And so the gentleman that was killed, his wife was in the U.S. Congress as Trump was giving his speech and saluted her, and then she clasped her hands together in the black dress and looks up to heaven as if to speak with her dead husband. And everyone said, "Oh, isn't that lovely? Applaud him for his service." It's repulsive.
It is repulsive.
He's not in heaven. He is dead. He lost his life in a mission that had no value whatsoever and was counterproductive because women and children were murdered. I mean, let's not celebrate death. Let's not celebrate failure. And that's what we do as a country. It's why God can't stand militaries or religions. Causing many to die needlessly. The best estimates are now over 1 million people died as a result of our ill-fated invasion of Iraq, and that another 400,000 to 500,000 have died because of the consequence of our ill-fated invasion of Iraq, which is the fall of Syria.
Well, that's
a lot of people dying needlessly.
Yeah, that sounds even very conservative numbers to me because of just Iraq alone. With
one of the few things that Trump has said that has actually been intelligent. I track Trump, and my estimate is that 6 out of every 10 things he says are reasonable. 4 out of every 10 things he says are off the planet stupid, and that's significantly better than the Obamanator, who lied 90% of the time, who was wrong 90% of the time. But he said that America squandered $6 trillion, making a bad situation worse in the Middle East.
Now, he said it, with the ramifications
making a bad situation worse.
I mean, is anybody
and then,
really
of course, he wants to increase the size of the U.S. military, and he wants to go to war even more vociferously and aggressively with the Islamic State. Now, how in the world can you put those things together if you're irrational? You have to be irrational. Say, I'm going to increase the size and increase the onslaught against that which has cost us $6 trillion.
I'm going to continue the status quo till it kills us.
Till it kills us. And it won't be very long before it will.
No.
Causing many to die needlessly. This is the next part of this that, Yahweh was just so clear. Your silver, your money in general, and that which you yearn for have become worthless dross. Your alcoholic drinks are diluted in the sea. Your political and religious officials are defiant in their rebellion, and they are closely associated, sharing a common agenda with kidnappers, slave traders, and thieves. Every one of them adores a bribe and chases after illicit inducements to buy influence for payoffs and rewards. They do not bring justice to the fatherless child. Quarreling with the congregation of the bound, the dumb, and the forsaken is not pursued by them. God is extraordinarily clear. He does not want your money. He considers it worthless dross. Alcoholic beverages are used as a metaphor because without alcoholic beverages, the water itself was deadly. It was filled with pathogens. If you drank the water being transformed into beer or wine, in any civilized community, it would kill you. That's why on all these survival shows, you find them boiling the water. Well, no one knew that boiling water would kill the pathogens back 5,000, 6,000 years ago. And so the only thing that actually they did that had the result of killing the pathogens was brewing. They could brew beer, and they could make wine. That was all they could do that would have a profound and positive influence. And they say, no, your alcoholic drinks, they're diluted. They're not going to keep you safe anymore. No. And then he attacks the establishment, human institutions. The people that are at the helm of human institutions, they're all scumbags. They want to bribe. They'll do anything to buy influence. They seek payoffs. Not good.
Speaks to the day, doesn't it?
It does. But when you look at human history,
yes, always
there is really no time where it has been any different. If you, I made a point one day. I was talking about, I think that Rome was the most despicable culture in human history. That whether it was the Republic of Rome or Imperial Rome, they were just scumbags, vicious, militant, deceived, arrogant. I mean, they duplicitous. They were awful. They just, and I think that a case can be made that Imperial Rome is, and God makes it himself, that Imperial Rome was the physically the most deadly nation or civilization on earth. He then says that the difference between Imperial Rome and Roman Catholicism is scope, that Roman Catholicism will tread on more people. But ultimately, the things that is most deadly is not militaries, but religions.
Yes, words.
Because religions kill the soul. Yeah, the religious words kill the soul. Therefore, this is the prophetic announcement of the upright one of Yahowah, of the spiritual implements, the mighty one of Yisrael. He says, "Woe, pay attention to this warning. I will be relieved of my adversaries. I will take vengeance on my enemies." Now, how do you reconcile that with an all-loving God?
Well, I can't. Somebody might, but I certainly can't. But what you do is you change the translation.
Right, and of course, the issue with this is that, okay, well, that's the God of the Old Testament, so we'll have a new, more loving
we replaced
God.
him with a new God, so that doesn't count.
Why don't you tell me a book that is more insightful regarding the new and improved God, the Christian Jesus? Why don't you tell me something that demonstrates more completely that it was inspired by God relative to its prophetic statements regarding the real Yosha. And so since it, written 777 years before he would fulfill the things that it promises he would do, are precise and precisely accurate and complete and stunningly compelling, you're not in a position to say, okay, well, he had a senior moment, he got some of it right, but some of the stuff we just ought to ignore. That he really isn't saying that he's going to be rid of his enemies, that he's going to take vengeance on his enemies. He's not really giving us this adversarial statement. We'll just ignore that part, and we'll focus on the things that we like, and we'll take them out of context. Can't do that.
Oh, that's the way it's done.
So the fact of the matter is, God is saying what we've been saying for a long time. Hate is a good thing. Hate is a virtue.
Yeah. When you hate the right things, absolutely.
Yes, you need to know what to hate, and then when you know what to hate, you ought to exercise your disdain. I hate religion. I hate politics. I hate militarism. I hate patriotism. I hate rape and rapists, terror and terrorists, murder and murderers, pedophilia and pedophiles, rape and rapists. If you don't hate those things too, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're peculiar.
Right. So who are God's enemies? The religious, the political, Then I will turn my hand upon you in my desire to remove your impurities in the manner of natural cleansing agents, your repulsive rubbish and your worthless divisions, all of which I will choose to remove. So once he has rid himself of his enemies, the leaders, those who are still standing, those who have disassociated themselves from those things, God's in a position to perfect. He's going to do that. And I will opt to restore your Shaphat, your judges, as it was in the beginning, along with your counselors who provide advice and direction, as it was from the start. Thereafter, for you to approach Jerusalem will be called the city of righteous vindication and the city of confirmed and enduring truth. It's going to come full circle. Yahweh's going to...
Yeah, he started out talking about exactly the same thing, repeats it several times, and puts it in different ways slightly. And, it's very clear. I don't know how you argue with that.
And so Jerusalem is not the place where he says, I'm going to judge the world. No, he says, first of all, I'm going to rid myself of my adversaries. I'm going to do away with them. So all those who have been religious, all those who have been political and patriotic and militaristic, they're all gone. Those who remain, he's going to cleanse. And because he's in the business of perfecting the imperfect, they're going to call the place where he is going to do this from, his home, Jerusalem, the place of righteous vindication, the city of confirmed and enduring truth.
Hallelujah.
Not the Vatican, not New York, not Washington, D.C., not London, not Mecca, Jerusalem. That destroys the myth of the Vatican and Roman Catholicism, of Mecca and Islam, of Christianity and its affinity for the Western world, particularly the United States. No. Jerusalem, the source from which direction and teaching regarding reconciliation flow. Now, this is why we, the first of many, we came to review this again. Zion. So, obviously now with Zion being the next word, it has something to do with Yahowah being in such a way that Jerusalem is now called the city of righteous vindication and the city of confirmed and enduring truth. Zion, signs marking the way by the means to exercise good judgment regarding justly resolving disputes, shall ransom and redeem those who change their attitude and return the right way, causing them to be innocent and upright. So God has gone on record right here saying, if you follow the signs that I posted along the way, Zion, to justly resolving disputes, the Mizpot. The Mizpot are Pesach, Matzah, Bakudim, Shabuah. Passover, which is the source of life. Unyeasted bread, which is the source of perfection, cleansing.
Perfecting, yes.
Bakudim, which is the adoption as firstborn children. And Shavuot is enrichment and empowerment.
Yeah.
That those are the mispot, the means to justly resolve disputes. And he says these signs mark the way to exercise good judgment regarding the means to justly resolve disputes, and those who follow them, who change their attitude and return the right way, will cause them to become right, innocent and upright, vindicated. Powerful.
Yeah, and
that's the answer.
I even like the part where he's talking about turning, that instead of repenting. You can't. It's not about a feel bad. You probably are going to feel bad, but it's just turn your direction. Stop it.
Repent is a Christian concept. It's not a godly concept. God never asks you to repent. He doesn't ask you to wallow in your pity. He says, walk away from that stuff, religion and politics. Yeah, cleanse yourself of it. Stop doing it. Be open to my instruction. Come to me. Read the signs that I have posted along the way. Take advantage of these mispot, And you're going to be right, upright, righteous, vindicated. I'm going to do as I promised. You're going to be immortal, perfected, adopted, enriched, and empowered. Good as it gets. That's what Zion, according to God, and I think we can trust him on this, represents. So. Then the downfall and destruction of the revolting rebels who defiantly transgressed the agreement will occur, along with the errant, blameworthy, and sinful, all together at the same time, with those who have rejected, abandoned, and forsaken Yahowah. For they will perish, be destroyed, and vanish from sight, ultimately being incarcerated. This suggests, because they're all at one time, that the trial for all of those who chose to cling, not just cling to religion, but promote religion, promoted names for God other than Yahowah, who directed people away from the Torah, who advocated a New Testament or Quran, that those individuals are going to find themselves judged all at one time. So the leaders of Babylon and Assyria and Sumer, the Aztec and Mayan and Inca leaders, the Polynesian who were so brutal and ruthless, the Chinese who were so brutal and ruthless to their fellow man, the Hissox, Amalekites,
yes, indeed,
Mitzrayim, Egyptians, Alexander and his Greeks, all of Imperial Rome, all of the leaders of the Roman Catholic Church, beginning with Theodosius, on down. All of them, all together at one time. Leading the parade will be Paul of Christian fame, Hadrian of Roman fame, Muhammad of Islamic infamy. Yeah. They will be leading candidates to be judged, but all at one time. Now, I don't think that means that Hadrian's trial and Muhammad's will occur simultaneously. I just think that God is going to have a moment where he's going to deal with all of these individuals, and they're all going to be dealt with at this one period of time. I would like to be at some of those trials. You know, Titus, he was a bad dude for what he did to Jerusalem. Jerusalem deserved it, no question about it, but he's going to be held accountable, as will Hadrian, as will Rabbi Akiba, Maimonides.
I was going to say Akiba and even Maimonides to some degree.
Yeah, Constantine's in trouble, as is Theodosius.
Yeah.
But
and
Caligula and Nero, they're not in any.
No, they're toast.
They're toast. Yeah. All at one time. So there's going to be a trial, and all together, at the same time, those who have rejected, abandoned, and forsaken Yahowah, for they will perish, be destroyed, and vanish from sight, ultimately being incarcerated. You know, your body can die, and then you can be incarcerated. Those who are going to be judged at this time will be incarcerated forever in Sheol.
Right.
Those who were victims of religion are not going to be saved.
No.
But they will perish.
But they won't. They're not punished.
No,
they just perish.
Right.
It stops.
Destroyed.
It's over.
Vanishing from sight. All of them are going to vanish from sight. Others will be incarcerated. That's 128.
Yeah. You know, the first time I read Pesach on Yada Yahweh, with Yada Yahweh, and it was confusing to me because, you know, coming from a Christian frame, you're always told about I'm going to be saved and so forth, and it was hard to reconcile what was going on in Pesach till it finally dawned on me that, remember, I'm a little slow, it dawned on me that he's not saving bodies, he's saving the soul, the only thing that's important. It's resolving so that your soul can live forever. You can't save your body anyway. I don't even want a resurrected body.
No, bodies are meaningless.
The limitations on it would be horrible.
Yeah. During the millennial Shabbat, there will be a lot of bodies. I'm not going to be one of them. You're not going to be one of them. No, but nobody is
part
of the covenant.
Those still have an ultimate end as well. They have the same choice at the end as well.
Yeah. Lisa writing in the chat room, Paul was ugly, fat, old, and balding. Paul, regardless of the physical, Paul, regardless of his physical manifestation, which I do think, by the way, was probably hideous. The way that he describes his how everybody rejected him and how lonely and loathsome he was, and the house in Rome. His fixation on Timothy, his love for Timothy. My guess is when you look at him, you're going to give you the creeps. But that's not what makes Paul the plague of death. It's what he wrote. It's what he had to say.
Right.
It's his soul being forever linked with Satan, demon-possessed. He will be and is as hideous as any individual in all of human history.
Let me ask you a thought. I want to ask you a question, if I may, about Sheol.
Sure.
We're in the millennial Shabbat. These people are judged. They're thrown into Sheol. Hasatan, Allah ben Shafar, gets tossed in there as well. And then he comes out for a short period of time at the end so that they will have choice, the people who have lived through
very much like in Eden, because, again, the millennial Shabbat celebration of Eden.
Same scenario, we're just doing it again.
At the end of Eden, Satan was allowed back in. He will be allowed back in during the end of the millennial Shabbat. Exactly the same scenario.
So some will avail themselves of that message, and most of them hopefully will not.
Correct.
When they're cast, when it's the final casting in.
By the way, it's only for those born during the millennial Shabbat. Because anyone who was part of the covenant before,
anybody who was part of the covenant
before Yahweh's return, they're already spiritual, they're already perfect.
Exactly.
Anybody who went into the millennial Shabbat as a mortal becomes immortal. They're still in a physical body. They can still have children. They're not going to. There is no way. They've already made their decision.
There's no choice they have to make. They've already made it.
There's no choice they have to make. This is strictly for those
the children they produce
were born during that 1,000-year period. That's who this is for.
Now the question arose from several people, maybe Dr. Jeff or maybe it was Roy or something. But when he makes a new world, which he will, what happens to Sheol?
Oh, Sheol.
Does he destroy that at the end of the 1,000?
No, I think
I wouldn't think so.
I think Sheol is the prison. I think Sheol is the prison.
And it can be reduced to a dot, so I guess it ain't going to take up a lot of room.
Oh, you're talking about when Yahweh creates a new heaven and a new earth, what happens with Sheol at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's your timing? Because if you're, Sheol exists right to the point of Yahweh creating a new heaven and a new earth as us as witnesses. And then what I would expect is of Sheol, that while he destroys the existing universe, and he does it. He has to do it for a number of reasons. First, we're going to have lots of time to go explore it during the millennial Shabbat and in the years just prior to it. We'll have lots of time to go explore it. And at the end of it, he's going to destroy it. And then this time, rather than just creating ones and then later on saying, "Hey, would you like to check it out?" we actually get to witness him creating a universe, and that's going to be like beyond fun.
Thank you.
So the question, what happens to Sheol? Because it's
what happens to Sheol? I mean,
hard,
I don't have an answer to that.
But the universe that Yahweh created is six-dimensional. He is a seven-dimensional construct. The universe he created is six-dimensional. We're stuck in 3 dimensions in it, and Sheol is essentially 1 dimension, infinite in time. But it is essentially a 1-dimensional. So I would my thought has always been
just fun thinking.
That 1-dimensional construct now exists forever. It's an eternal prison, but it exists forever, and the new universe that he creates is apart from it. So it exists in a place like right now, I think that Sheol is part of the six-dimensional construct that is the universe, but it's a prison for spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm.
But I would assume that it's going, because he's told us it's an eternal place, so it's going to be eternal. But I think now it's going to be eternal, absolutely separated from the new universe.
Kodesh, maybe.
Right.
Way apart.
So we're going to have a seven-dimensional construct. We're going to be seven-dimensional constructs. Witnessing Yah create another six-dimensional universe with Sheol and all of its nastiness outside of it.
Now, that's a cool thought. I don't know where outside of that would be, but that's...
You know, the universe had to be created in space, within dimensions, and it's going to be outside of those dimensions, separated from the dimensions that he's going to create this universe in.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's would be my take on it.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
So, this then goes on to say, this is the word that beneficially, Yah, salvation is from Yahweh, son of Amos, the trustworthy and steadfast, observed in the prophetic vision concerning Yahudah, which means related to and be related to Yah, and concerning Jerusalem, source from which guidance and direction flow regarding reconciliation and restoration. Okay, just stop for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh is talking about a prophecy, and this happens to be end times, regarding Jerusalem and Yahudah. That's not a prophecy about Washington, D.C. in America.
No, a church.
Not a prophecy about Paris or London or Berlin. Prophecy about Beijing or Moscow.
Or
not
Mecca.
A prophecy about the Vatican and Rome or Mecca. This is a prophecy about a very specific place. Jerusalem, Yahudah. Yahweh remains focused on that which he cares about and everything you need to know about him. The signs posted along the way, his home on earth. The place he cares about most is Jerusalem, Yahudah. Where was Dod's home?
Jerusalem, Yahudah.
That is correct.
Yahudah,
was Dod's home there before? Was Yahweh's home there first, or was Dod's?
Well, it was always his favorite place.
We are never told about Jerusalem being a place really prior to Dod, are we?
Well, not a down so much, but I mean,
we know of Yahudah
Abraham was there.
Yeah, we know of Yahudah at the time of
you can't say that about Yehudah because they
and Abraham.
They didn't come along till the grandchildren of Abraham. So
yeah, so Jerusalem is first mentioned in the context of Dod.
Yeah.
Yahweh doesn't tell. All Yahweh tells Abraham is to go to the area of Moriah.
Yeah.
That's what he tells us. Go to Moriah.
Jerusalem. No, you're right. Yeah,
but
right. Yeah.
So did Dod build his house on Moriah first, or Yahweh's?
His. Yeah, because he didn't get to build Yahweh's house, remember, or his temple.
So what's God's priority? Himself or
his children, apparently.
Yeah,
apparently. To me, that he likes his children. He ain't worried about his house.
No, he isn't.
He'll get his house.
Yeah. It was his children. So the first house on Moriah that we know about was Dod's.
Yeah. Can't dispute that, no.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. But anyway, so this is about Yahudah and Jerusalem. It shall come to pass in when? The last days. So if it's going to be in the last days and that Yahweh is focused on Jerusalem, Yahudah, you can kiss your Christianity goodbye.
Yeah. They can't read this
you can kiss your replacement theology goodbye. You can kiss Pauline Christianity. Adios. It's not the Vatican. It's not Roman Catholicism. It's not Eastern Orthodox. It's not the Copt Christianity. It's not Islam in Mecca. It's not the Mormons and Salt Lake City.
Well,
all of that is just destroyed with this one statement. This is the last days, al-Akharon. The last days, and Yahweh is focused on Jerusalem, Yehudah.
You know, it doesn't even say Israel.
No. Now, Yahweh is going to reconcile Yehudah with Israel before he reconciles both with himself.
Yeah.
He's going to do that. However, it's Yehudah. This is where Jerusalem is. And while Yisrael is a wonderful word, it means individuals who engage and endure with God. Yehudah carries our Maker's name. Yahu is short for Yahweh. The Da means to love, to relate to, and be related to.
Related to Yah.
Yeah. That's what he cares about. That's where he's focused on. So it shall come to pass in the last days, al-Akharon, firmly established, completed, and enduring. The house, home, and the family of Yahweh will come to exist in proximity to the summit of the first and foremost mountain of the mountains, lifted up, supported, and sustained as part of these elevated places. Now, Yahweh has just spoken of Zion. Oh, this is 2:1 and 2:2. Yahweh has just introduced us to Zion. And now he says that, and Zion is located in the heart of Jerusalem, Yehudah. And so then he says, in the last days, firmly established, completed, and enduring, the house, home, and family of Yahweh, that would be the covenant family,
right,
is going to come to exist in proximity to the summit of the first and foremost mountain of the mountains, lifted up, supported, sustained, and as part of these elevated places. I have directed your attention, and my guess is you probably checked this out. Have you ever looked at pictures of, whether they be Google map pictures, Google Earth, or just pictures that people have taken of the actual summit of Moriah? People think the summit of Moriah is the Temple Mount. That's not true. The summit of Moriah is 777 steps from the strides from the Temple Mount. And the summit is kind of carved in at one point, because they took off within probably 70 steps of the actual summit. There's the embankment that's called Golgotha. You can still see the skull there. It means to roll away.
That as well.
But the skull face is still there in that embankment. And right at the base of that embankment is where Yosef fulfilled Pesach. Right below that is where the Ark of the Covenant is today. And that is where the summit is. The embankment was the stones that had fallen off that embankment were actually used to build up the Temple Mount. But the Temple Mount is not the summit of Jerusalem. Now, have you ever looked at the summit of Mount Moriah?
I have seen it. You know, Jake, since when you began all this a while back, Jake of Rainbow fame, he did a lot of pictures that he shared with everybody, and yes, indeed.
Yeah, because the Temple Mount's got the most repulsive, disgusting, satanic scar ever conceived by man. The dome of the rock, which is a shrine to Satan's triumph over Yehudah and Jerusalem and Yahweh. He built the Dome of the Rock, a hideous monument to Satan, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is there as well. God is not building his home on top of that disgusting place. As a matter of fact, the Temple Mount isn't going to be anymore.
Yeah. The
earthquake is going to go right through there as it goes from Mount of Olives to the sea, and then that ravine, the chasm, is going to be filled with the most beautiful of all waters, and and cascading waterfalls, and white water is going to separate the lower part of Moriah where Dod's home is. There'll be a bridge over it, bridge of light in all likelihood, rainbow probably, between Dod's home and Yahweh's home. And Yahweh's home is going to be built on the summit of Mount Moriah, which to this day, single most coveted place in all the world, the single best, most enduring piece of real estate in the world. There's nothing more coveted for its views and for its location than the summit of Mount Moriah, and no one has ever built anything there.
Isn't that amazing, though?
It is exactly as it was when Abraham and Yishak were there now 4,000 years ago. Isn't that amazing?
That is, it blew me away. It blew me away.
Yeah,
there it is. In fact, George says exactly
it.
And
say, oh, my goodness. Yep. So that's where he says he's going to build his house for his family. The family home of Yahowah will come to exist.
We get to go visit, right?
Yep. So then it says, every Gentile shall flow forth with a joyful countenance, beaming with happiness and shining brightly. And if you're a Gentile and you've survived to see Yahweh come home, man, you are happy. You're radiating Yahweh. We're going to be, we're going to be creatures of light, and we're going to be shining brightly. And many people who are part of the family shall travel, and they shall say, walk because we can, of our own volition, ascend to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house and family of the God of Jacob, and therefore Yisrael and the covenant. And so he can fulfill his will and teach it by means of his ways in order for us to choose to genuinely and continually travel about in his manner.
Boy, what a trip.
What a trip. We get to go there of our own volition. We get to ascend right up to Yahweh, the summit of the mountain, enter the house and family of God, so he can fulfill his will, which is his desire. He knows a lot more than we do. He gets to teach us. That's what he wants to do.
This is just one happy paragraph after another. Once he got through, don't do this, and this is, if you do this, you'll perish. And then he got what a joyful passage. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just
can't wait for that experience. It's going to be absolutely marvelous. And that is what Zion has led us to. That's what the signposts along the way lead us to. Now, my friend, we are now still recording, but we are no longer broadcasting.
Why is it? Is it just the translation's so bad? I mean, but in the normal books that people buy, this is so outstanding and so simple. You know, it's not that I think thousands are going to turn around and go, I want to be a part of this. It's just it is so simple when translated correctly. Yeah, that's not what the English translations say. And a matter of fact, in a chapter that was devoted to this particular passage and all those we have read, and I spent a lot of time saying this is why I came up with this rendering. And you're free to investigate it on your own and challenge that. And if you can come up with something better or different, so long as the history of those words and the roots of those words allow it and support it, wonderful. And I'm not claiming to be right. I'm claiming to be as accurate and complete as I'm capable of being, using the best tools that are available. And that's what I am convinced God had to say, and I'm absolutely open if you've got a better rendering of it. But boy, when you render it this way, it screams, I want to be there. Yeah, I'm not a good writer, but I certainly can look up things and see what they mean, and I'm more like a checker than a writer. I say, I can confirm it. And it really just keeps coming up that way. I mean, you write a lot more eloquently than someone else might, but this still is exactly what it says. I mean, I have checked. Yeah. I don't think I write eloquently. I think what happens is you're very eloquently, and if you work really hard. Concise is right there, right in your, this is what it means, and it flows very nicely. You become a very good writer.
Yeah, I think it's more of a fact of is that I've just become really comfortable with Yahweh's ways of communicating.
With the term.
Yeah, and so this is what he said, and when you have a mindset and an attitude to convey what he said, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because
truly,
of what he had to say.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to contribute. I was just sitting here listening to you read it as I'm reading it with you, and I'm going, wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Profound.
That's good for me.
That's really good. Yeah, and you can screw it up. You know, if you read an English translation that says Judah as opposed to Yehuda, that has Jerusalem as opposed to Jerusalem, that has Isaiah as opposed to Yashayah, that doesn't know what Amos means, that you don't know that it means trustworthy and steadfast. If you don't know what Bereth and Be'eth mean, family and home. If you don't know these things, then I guess you could easily misconvey them. But you also have to look when you read a word that says shining brightly, beaming with happiness, you ought to render it that way. Yeah. And then you ought to think about it. What is the context of this? Well, he's already said that everybody that's religious is gone. So if you're a Gentile at this point and you're here,
you've made a right decision somewhere.
You did. You're part of the covenant family. So
yes,
you're thrilled to be able to walk across that bridge of light and up to Yahweh's home and to celebrate it. You're thrilled. This is the single most extraordinary moment of your life. I mean, maybe for some of us there will be a more touching moment, but no greater celebration. A more touching moment, I think, for many of us is when we first enter Yahweh's presence and he welcomes us with open arms. And then we have the opportunity to witness our friends, those who have gone on the same journey with us, arrive and be greeted by Yahweh. And we see others who we've come to know as part of his family come into his presence, and that smile on Yahweh's countenance as they do. I think that's going to be the tenderest, richest, most emotional, extraordinary moment. But for just sheer joy, his return and walking up to his house. Can you imagine Jerusalem now and Israel is the most beautiful place on earth? It's returned to the conditions of the Garden of Eden. Yahweh's got a house of light with this rainbow bridge across these roaring rapids of beautiful water, with Dode's house, the great psalmist and songwriter with his harp singing his heart out below. And you get to walk from Dode and the melodies of Dode right up to Yahweh's house and enter his house. Yeah, it's going to be extraordinary.
That's That's a wow.
It is a wow.
That's a wow.
And by the way, you know what the next statement says? For indeed, because from Zion, the conspicuous signs posted that mark the way, shall be brought forth the Torah, the source from which teaching, guidance, direction, and instruction flow. The word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. So what led us there?
It's obviously Zion. The Torah that is teaching.
Zion led us to the Torah, and the Torah is what made it possible for us to be there.
Right.
Zion is what led us to the Torah, and the Torah is what made it possible for us to be there. Zion are the signs that point our way to the Torah. Torah is the instruction manual that brings us home. It's beautiful.
Indeed, it's just that's a thrilling moment just to read it. It's one of those wowies and kind of how do you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, I love what we did today, Kirk. Yeah, were you leading us here on the Starship Torah? Went through the contemporaneous proof in Egypt that the plagues happened just as Yahweh said they did.
Yeah.
And that affirmation is delicious. I love it. But
the
difference between that
with
and
me my whole life.
Yahweh
I read it then. I wasn't questioning whether it was true. I just didn't know how to get to him.
Right.
I truly didn't.
But then,
that was the big obstacle.
When Yahweh says has happened and will happen and why it's going to happen, and what the result and consequence are going to be, it's a lot more uplifting, isn't it?
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, this is Yahshua is just a whole series of wows. Just wow, wow, wow. And it gets just better and better. He's very explicit on what he dislikes, very explicit on what is right.
Yeah.
And he tells us matter-of-factly, this is the consequence of being wrong. This is the result of being right.
Mm-hmm. And this is how you become right. And it's not hard.
How you become right. Yeah, not hard.
It really is not hard.
It's really easy.
So, well.
And it has
I've
nothing
enjoyed
to do
this day. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Much.
And I look forward, next week we'll pursue the
I'll plug along and see if I can
talk.
put enough material that you can we can have some fun with it. So
yeah, I
think
enjoyed
so.
reading
It's
what
pretty
you
interesting
said
stuff.
and having you present it. It was great stuff. Nicely
Thank
done.
you, sir.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Thank
it's
you.
one original thought. It's just me digging it all out from different places and one primary source and a whole bunch of secondary sources. So but,
I don't think there are a lot of
good stuff.
Yeah. Apart from Yahweh, I don't think there really are a lot of original thoughts.
No.
Like all the things that we've come up with.
It's nice when they confirm it and there's no hiding place. They can't twist that.
Yeah, like this idea that we're the reason that Eden is presented is because we're going to come full circle, and that ultimately eternity is akin to Eden, where we camp out with Yahweh and explore with Him, and celebrate life with Him, learn from Him. That is a novel thought relative to the human experience. It's exactly what Yahweh told us was going to happen. So it's His thought. We've just uncovered it. And uncovering it was not difficult.
Yeah.
Simply listening to what he had to say.
Right. Well, that's the part when the Shemar being closely examined, carefully considering and closely examined, as you like to say. I thought that was a great translation of Shemar from the start. I said, well, that's what he wants you to do. So, and it's all right there if you dig it out.
Agreed.
So,
agreed, and it's marvelous.
And you've done a good job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so have you. All right, my friend. We'll talk next week.
Yes, sir. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, it was a good day. Bye-bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.